You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus. Oh, he's making noises before it even starts. Does this mean he's on one? Hey everyone, thank you for listening to Me and Paranormal You, the podcast. I'm Ryan Singer. I am the host. Today there's no guest. This is a third ear bonus. So open up your third ear, if you will, and join me as we discuss all things paranormal or esoteric or mystical, supernatural, spiritual, etc. I have posted a couple of videos over on the Patreon page. A quick shout out over to the patrons right now. Thank you for your support. $3 a month gets you no commercials. And it also gets you weird video updates and things like video style updates. It gets you other stuff as well. There's other tiers. There's higher tiers that get you more things. I've posted some unedited video clips from the, or at least one from the Florida investigation over there at the $11 tier. Are you interested in just watching videos to see if you pick up on EVPs and things like that? Well, then potentially I could be doing that. I'm not trying to outsource. I'm not trying to farm out my work. I can't even get together. I can't even get together with my brain and my body. My body and my brain can't get together. They have to make like date nights. So to even start working on that, because first of all, there's so much more filming to be done on the Florida investigation before that documentary will ever come out. And I'm still working on The Bridge, for goodness sake. That's only been 3 years. And then I'm also working on Fitz. The video Friends in the Sky documentary, Greg Feynman, Mama Sue, I guess I'm also involved in that investigation, along with Ed Brown and Dan Lindholm. Now, what you have here is you have a couple videos. I've been editing for like the last 2 weeks. I've just been, or a week and whatever it's been, I've just been editing this documentary, working on it. And, I'm nowhere close to being finished, but I have been making some decent headway. Some strange malfunctions happening. So I've posted a video over there. There's a section of this investigation, or it's just really the filming of the investigation, or the filming of the story. We went out to Trinidad, Colorado, right around a year ago now, and that was late January 2022. And we were out there for Dan Lindholm, Ed Brown, and myself, and Mama Sue came up to Greg Feynman's place, and we filmed for about 5-6 days, trying to get all the story on camera. I wish I had, $3,000 cameras and all that kind of stuff. I don't have that kind of stuff, but I think we may do with what we had, and I think it's a very compelling story, as you've heard it unfold itself through the episodes of this podcast. I think there's 7 episodes or something. I can't even keep track. But that story has unfolded here on the podcast. This is the main area where that story has come out. And so I was like, I'm not going to be the one who edits this. I don't have time. And then here we are. I know the story better than most people, I suppose, since I've been there since kind of, not the beginning, but anyway, you get it. And then I also posted the video after I was able to figure, this is what happens. It's strange. It's peculiar. It's weird. It's strange. Wow. So here's what happened. My Adobe Premiere editing software keeps malfunctioning. And I've documented that on the video for patrons, as I'm just trying to make this little, 40-second clip, and just to send it out to a couple of people involved. And this weird thing happens right at the moment where this, is it an orb? Is it not? We don't know. Needless to say, there's something very compelling that happens in the moment. It's Is it frightening? Is it scary? Is it unexpected? Yes. And so right at that moment, as I'm getting there, the software is just not working, and it starts freezing and flickering and all this kind of weird stuff. And it just keeps, and so I save the project. I cancel the software. I open it back up. I start over. I do it again. Same thing happens. I save it. I close it. I reopen it. Same thing happens. Anytime I'm trying to change any kind of visual contrast level, lighting, the color of the clip, etc., to try to accentuate what we believe could possibly, maybe, be some kind of orb situation happening. So I'm like, you know what? Forget about it. I need to go to the grocery store anyway. I need to go get some seltzer waters in a can. I'm trying to be totally off sodas, DC, CZ, and regular C. I'm talking about Diet Coke, Coke Zero, and Coke. I'm trying to be totally off that. I mean, I'm trying to get off, peanut butter cookies, PBCs. I'm trying to get off of, PBC2, which is peanut butter cups. I'm trying to get off all that stuff. I can't be just consuming all this processed sugar, and I don't want to, so I'm trying not to. I'm doing a decent job of avoiding it and, trying to take care of myself so I can live to be 100 years old and, hopefully tap into, the framework and the groundwork of what Robert Monroe's been laying out. I mean, just trying to expand my consciousness into the depths of the universe. Anyway, so we can talk a little bit about Bobby in a minute, but I hope he doesn't mind me calling him Bobby. I'm sure he doesn't. So I decide to leave and go to the store. And it's, I don't know, 8:30 at night. I like that time because sometimes I like to go even after 10 o'clock because it's usually pretty empty. And you can kind of just pretend like it's your store, right? I enjoy that. So you'll see a few people in there, but there's just friends that I told them, come on over and pick out some things. That's what you do. You just pretend like you own the grocery store. It's your pantry, right? So I'm driving. I'm driving down the street, and all of a sudden something catches my eye. It's a formation of 3 or 4. I think 3. If I had to, if someone said it's $1 million, what's it going to be? 3 or 4? I would say probably 3. 3 lights in the sky. Now, this is as I'm taking a break from editing a documentary tentatively entitled Fitz, Friends in the Sky, The Investigation at Mutilation Ranch, about the Greys and cattle mutilations and Omaha and the spirit of a missing person, etc. And so, very UFO-centric. And something's happening, and it's going all wonky. So I'm like, I guess I'm not supposed to be doing this right now. Sometimes you just have to listen to the universe. So I decided to go to the grocery store. I immediately, upon leaving to go to the grocery store, I see a formation of 3 lights in the sky in the distance. They're dim. They are not white. They are yellowish orange. They're in a row, a straight row, from what I can see. They are pretty far away. And they're not blinking. And there's an airplane going, and there's an airplane coming, and they're blinking, and it's a pretty clear night here in Southern Ohio. And I see this, and it's frigid here. It is. Oh my gosh, it's frigid here. Today felt balmy because it's like 30 degrees, which is still way too cold for the lizard that I am. 15 degrees yesterday or whatever it was. Get out of town. So I'm not going to stop my car and get out and try to film anything because I have an iPhone 11. The camera won't even get it if I wanted to. And it's freezing outside. So I'm like stopping in the middle of the road, kind of like trying to look at it. And then I drive a little further and I stop and I'm looking. And it's not going anywhere, right? And so then I get on a road where I can drive toward it. So now I'm driving toward the lights in the distant sky, pretty high up. I would say, if you go outside, you don't have to cock your head all the way back, but, 45 degrees, right, to even be able to see it in the distance. And it is away from Wright Pat Air Force Base. So it is a direction away from that. Now, to be clear, these lights are not moving. So I'm wondering, is this some kind of star cluster that I just see here for the first time that looks strange, and they're a different color than everything else for some strange reason? And then they're just not moving. They're not blinking. They're not sparkling. They're doing absolutely nothing. So I get on this road where I can drive toward the lights, which would be west. So I start headed due west. And now these lights are going away from me. They are evading the capture of my gaze, or my gaze's capture, or capture from my gaze, whatever, you get it. And now, then, boom, it's gone. They're gone. Then they're just gone. And to be clear, this was over the course of a few minutes. They were not getting smaller at any point during my observation of these lights. They weren't moving, like I said, they weren't blinking, they weren't moving, right, to like be a plane that went away from me. And as soon as I could go drive toward them and see them through my windshield as opposed to my side window, my driver's side window, it was as if they zipped off. They're gone. I didn't see them zip off or anything like that. They were just gone. There was just no more lights in that area in the sky. So I was baffled and quite interested. So I park at the grocery store. I can't believe that they're not there. I'm like, I'm driving. I have other things I need to be focusing on. I probably missed them. I get into the parking lot, and it's frigid. I'm not overestimating, or I'm not exaggerating the cold here in Southern Ohio. It is like even a polar bear is like on Amazon looking for scarves. It's freezing here. A little breezy maybe, although I'm looking outside right now, zero breeze whatsoever. But still, the wind chill feels real even if it wasn't windy. It's freezing out, but nonetheless, I am compelled. So I'm now kind of somewhat stumbling around this Kroger parking lot. It's not highly populated. I mean, it's coming up on 9 p.m. at night or whatever time it is. So there's not a ton of people there. But it's not like this is, even though I joke about this being a one-horse town, because it sure feels like it, because there's like one diner and it's like 25 minutes. It's a Waffle House I can go to right now if I wanted to. It's like, that's just not acceptable for how I want to live my life. I need diners. I need diners too. I never know when I'm going to need some flapjacks with peanut butter. Diner Dan, this isn't the time. I'm talking about a possible UFO sighting. Oh, but I'm talking about flapjacks. Okay, Diner Dan, we get it. I get it. I'm the one who feeds you flapjacks. Yeah. Yeah. So now I'm stumbling around the parking lot, looking kind of drunk, I suppose, as if my neck is, broken, because I'm looking straight up in the moon. Oh my God, is she beautiful tonight? And if I had to guess with a phase, I would say she's just after half moon, probably, or quarter moon, just after. Let's look up. I'm going to look up the moon phase. Maybe she's a waxing. She's definitely waxing. She's definitely waxing right now. I'd be surprised if she's not. Yeah, she's a waxing gibbous. Definitely waxing. So she's a waxing gibbous right now. And she's beautiful. Has she ever looked more beautiful than she has tonight? Other than every other time you've ever looked at her. I love the moon. I'm a moon guy. I worship the goddess of the moon. I also have come to realize that I'm really kind of a sun guy. I am into the sun pretty good. I'm into the moon. I'm into the sun. I don't necessarily think I have to choose one. I'll happily be in a throuple with the sun and the moon. Oh my God, the sun is so hot, right? And gives life to everything on this planet. And the moon is a reflection of such beauty, because the moon is like, I want you to shine. Let me show the world how you shine. Like, so it's just selfless and just it's just a beautiful, beautiful, and an enigma. Right? A mystery. The mystery surrounding the moon is the unanswerable origins of the moon. Where did she come from? Scientists are still arguing. Nonetheless, we know where the sun came from. a little more plain and clear when it comes on the origin story, but the powerful and the purpose of existence that the sun has is to just make sure everything else can be alive and get juiced up and get warm. I love that about the sun. Heat me up some rocks and let me lay on them. I'm a lizard. Thank you, sun. I'm really into the sun right now, and really into the moon as always. So I'm stumbling around the parking lot like a drunk sailor who's just on leave. We just made sure, right? And I was drinking out of my flask before I got there. And when you're on a boat too long or even a treadmill for too long, it feels like you're moving, even when you're on solid ground. And that's kind of, I guess, what I probably looked like. Like I'd been at sea for a month, and now I'm just kind of like, trying to find my bearings. And I'm just staring at the moon. And I'm like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to be looking for, lights that I didn't recognize as ever seeing before, that are strange. And then I'm like, oh, but the moon, she's so beautiful. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, look at these lights. And so I'm kind of like whipping my head around. I didn't almost get run over, but I was probably more dangerous than someone on their cell phone walking through a parking lot. You see that? You see people when they said they're just walking through the aisle of a parking lot with their head down, staring at the cell phone. It's like, you are around motor vehicles. This is a time to be paying attention, friend. So anyway, did not see the lights. I investigated as much as as my frigid little body would let me, and because I get cold very easily, and I become weak after living on the West Coast for too long. And by weak, I mean I've embraced my true lizard self, and I just don't need this cold. Nobody needs it, I say. Although with global warming and the climate change map that indicates that southern Canada will probably be the most ideal location to live in about 30 years. It makes you wonder, okay, do I just buy a house in the snow and sooner or later it'll be like living in Tennessee now. Anyway, so we don't have to go down that dark rabbit hole. So I'm editing a documentary about aliens. It started with an investigation due to cattle mutilations with the suspects being the Greys. It doesn't work. So I leave, and I see lights in the sky I've never seen. I come back, and I'm able to do it. And I put those clips up for you over at patreon.com/Ryan Singer. You can go check those out. If you're $3 a month or higher, you can check out those videos. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the orb video. And, if you see it, and which I think you will, because I slowed it down twice, and I'd be interested to hear what you think. I am not going to give you my opinion on this video. I will just say this. Me and some of the other people involved there that night, you will see Mama Sue, you will see Dan Lindholm, and you'll see Ed Brown. And I don't think you'll see me because it's my camera phone that it catches this footage. We have differing opinions potentially on what may or may not be happening in this video. So go check that out and then come back. You probably have time to watch it while the commercials happen. Well, no, you don't have commercials because you're a patron. We'll be right back. Do you find yourself at a crossroads? Do you find yourself at a fork in the road? Or do you find yourself at a spork in the road? Well, never fear. Follow your intuition. Listen to your gut. Go where the wind may blow. This is a commercial for following your intuition, brought to you by your instincts. Welcome back to the show. I would like to think that, I'm at 47 years old, I have a pretty clear understanding of what my life is and what my life has been and potentially what my life would be. Moving forward, I got to tell you, it is always a crapshoot over here. I don't know how you feel, but it's always kind of up in the air. What's going to be happening? Will the wind blow me in a way that I never expected? And I guess that sentence sounded a little dirtier than it was supposed to. But will we be taken in a direction or on a path that we never expected to be taking? I don't know. Part of me wonders, am I just going to only make paranormal documentaries now for the rest of my life? Because I seemingly can't get enough of them. Trying to edit 3 of them simultaneously. That is a fool's errand. Why would I do this? Not to mention 2 different books I'm working on. And a comedy career? I'm trying to I'm recording a new album later this year. I'm very excited about it. I had such a fun show in Dayton, Kentucky over this past weekend at the Commonwealth Sanctuary. If you're anywhere in the southern Ohio or northern Kentucky or, eastern Indiana area, I can't recommend checking this place out enough. It's an old church in this neighborhood in one of the coolest towns around Dayton, Kentucky. I would live in Dayton, Kentucky, quite frankly. I would. Do you own a house in Dayton, Kentucky? Do you want to rent it to me? I will rent it from you, depending on the price. I will rent it from you. You want to do a land contract and sell it to me, like, on a handshake, and we'll spit some saliva into our hands, and then we'll make an unbreakable contract as we shake our meat cleavers. Anyway, it was a really, really fun time. I think I'm just going to call my next comedy album Unhinged, because I'll tell you what, my set wasn't too unlike the last 30-year bonus that I put up last week. I mean, was I on one last week or what? Everybody decided to show up at the party. And I got to tell you, I'm here for it. So I keep mentioning, I've tried to rededicate myself to a practice of meditation on a daily basis, and I've been doing darn tootin' good on it. And I've been using the Expand app. And I know it sounds like I'm being sponsored by the Expand app and the Robert Monroe Institute, or the Monroe Institute, TMI, right? And TMI, never too much information as far as I'm concerned when it comes to expanding your consciousness to the far reaches of the universe and becoming one with all and understanding everything that ever was. Too much information, more like never too much information. So I've been doing that on the daily. I start my days off with it now as opposed to ending my days. And maybe I'll start doing both. Maybe I'll bookend with some meditation. I mean, you can never have too much, I suppose. And, some of them are guided meditations and some of them are not. I get into a very comfortable position and I kind of blast off. It was a great one today. Anyway, so I was like, I'm talking so much about Expand and, the Monroe Institute. And they also tie into, my friend Carolyn told me about the app down in Florida. And, there's details surrounding the information about all that I don't know, maybe we'll get into someday. But needless to say, when Carolyn recommends something in this area, I do my darndest to pay attention and to listen. So I want to talk a little bit about Rob. And it turns out there's a trilogy of books that I have not read that I must read now. But I've got so many books. I had to buy a duffel bag today to accommodate the books I've picked up since I've been here in the Midwest, roughly since Christmas time. So I had to buy a duffel bag for all these books. It's like, what am I doing? Anyway, so I'm trying to read every night as well. So that's just what I'm doing. My therapist says I need a schedule, even though he knows that too much of a schedule makes me feel boxed in and I have to jailbreak. And too much of a structured thing gives me panic. And, that explains a lot in my life, but it's because I need adventure and I need spontaneity. I need room. I need built-in spontaneity. So, there's being too much of a rigid structure, is suffocating to someone like me and maybe to you as well. And some people thrive in that. I am not a thriver in a prison of to-do lists and et cetera, et cetera. I'm more of a floater, a free floater. So Anyway, so I figured we'd talk just a little bit about Robert Monroe. And I got a deep dive on Robert, on old Bobby, and Bob-Roe. And because I'm starting to become more and more fascinated by Bob-Roe. And that's why I'm calling Robert Monroe Bob-Roe. So I've been fascinated with Manly P. Hall for a long time now. And when the fascination starts reaching a level like I had with, or currently still have with Manly P. Hall, I know that I'm just going to be like ad nauseum talking about Bob-Roe here. So I figured, let's get into a little bit of information, a little general information about Robert Monroe. Robert Monroe, unfortunately, is no longer with us in the physical realm. His consciousness, most assuredly, is connected to yours and to mine. Bob-Roe died in 1995. He was almost 80 years old. So he did all right. I graduated from Ohio State, lived in Columbus, Ohio, so not far from these stomping grounds, my old stomping grounds. Bob-Roe was, oh God, I got to stop calling him Bob-Roe, don't I? I'm going to go to the Monroe and see. I'm going to drop $2,500, do one of their week-long retreats and just like blast off for a week and just have like the greatest time ever, like expanding my consciousness, and everyone's going to just think I'm a maniac or I'm disrespectful because I keep calling him Bob-Roe. So he was married 3 times, which is interesting. I'm not going to delve too much into the personal stuff. Let's just, because what we're here for is the Monroe Institute, really. He was fascinated with the expansion of consciousness. He wrote a book, his book, Journeys Out of the Body. Journeys Out of the Body is considered the number one, or it's the first book in a trilogy, basically, of out-of-body experience books. His book, Journeys Out of the Body, is credited with, coining the phrase OBE, out-of-body experience. You never would have had a television show like the OA, which, by the way, maybe it's time to go revisit that show and do a rewatch of the OA. Britt Marling, deliver us from poor entertainment, please. She's like the Zeus of quality writing, acting, programming. So, she is Athena. Okay, so yeah, the OA is all about OBEs and a doctor studies. I wouldn't be surprised if they took some inspiration from Bob-Roe here, but yeah. So OBE, out of body experience, was popularized by Robert Monroe in his book Journeys Out of the Body, and I can just go to my thriftbooks.com cart right now. I'm gonna do that. You can probably hear me chopping away at the keys over here. Chomp, chomp, chomp. I use my teeth to type. I'm not sure if you knew that about me, but that's just who I am now. So I hope that's okay. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Here we go. I'm logged. I have 4 books in my cart over at thriftbooks.com, and it's only $56 worth. I should just pull the. I'm over here being like, I should just get this right now. I should just buy these 4 books right now. And I'm like, wasn't I just talking about how I had to buy a duffel bag to accommodate all the books I've already accumulated? Not to mention the ones that I have in my storage unit in beautiful Burbank, California, that I still haven't read. Oh, Lord. Oh, Odin, forgive me for what I do here. Investigating the Unexplained, a compendium of disquieting mysteries of the natural world. That's another Ivan Terence Sanderson book. That's a hardcover, $10. Good condition. Far Journeys. Okay, so the first book is Journeys Out of the Body, the classic work on out-of-body experience. I believe the second book, that's considered the second book, it's the third book, is The Ultimate Journey. So the second book in the series is considered Far Journeys. So there's a book called Far Journeys, which is the sequel, the follow-up to Journeys Out of the Body. And then after Far Journeys, you have the book The Ultimate Journey. These three books are credited with being the Journeys trilogy, or called the Journeys trilogy series. Many people credit this trilogy of books to be incredibly influential on, where they're at. It's so funny, like some of these books pop up. You can always tell when you're having a conversation with someone who you could probably sit and talk to for quite a long time. A book like Journey of Souls, Case Studies of Life Between Lives by Dr. Michael Newton pops up. The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot will pop up. Many Lives, Many Masters will pop up. Real Magic by Dean Radin will pop up. These books that are just, or, Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, Manly P. pops up. And you'd be like, okay, we're in this together, right? We are on this journey together. We're trying to figure it all out, right? We're trying to get there. We're trying to get the answers to the most unanswerable questions. I almost felt like I was getting ready to go into a Randy Macho Man Savage. Get the answers to the most unanswerable questions, Elizabeth. That wasn't a great Randy, but we'll take it. So anyway, those are the three books, right, that are considered, those are kind of like the OG OBE books. So I got to get them. I got to read them. I got to get them. I got to read them. And I got to just blast off in my astral projections, in my OBEs. I'm just going to be living a second life in the astral plane. I mean, I already am, right? You can go to the Monroe Institute, you can go to monroeinstitute.org. That's the main website. You can go there. And gosh, I'll tell you what, if I had $2,500 laying around, I would be out there doing like this week-long, it's just, we're going to do it. 1958 was when Monroe had his first out-of-body experience. 1958. So that is 66 years ago. So, he recorded this account in the 1971 book, Journeys Out of the Body. That's the first, and then Far Journeys, and then Ultimate Journey. So there's actually some time in between these books. Journeys Out of the Body, 1971. Far Journeys, 1985. Ultimate Journey, 1994, the year of my high school graduation. So, 1962, moved to Virginia. His business moved. He moved his business to Virginia. Anyway, he was like a cable guy. Anyway, not a cable guy. Like he started a cable thing, and it's not. I'm not really that into what he did. Like he made some money. Clearly, he had a business mind. If I had a business mind, oh my God, that I'd have a compound outside of Charlottesville, Virginia, where all these, that's just where the Monroe Institute is. And there's other weird stuff going on out there, man. Man, I'm telling you, there is, man. There's something going on in that area of the country, right? So, also, central Northern California, man. That's where Ions used to be, man. I'm telling you, used to be in Petaluma. I got a buddy, the guy who runs my record label or the record label that has put out my last few projects, Blonde Medicine. Dominic, Dominic and Jessica. They're the best people. They are, their offices are based out of Petaluma. I cannot believe I never went to Ions, Institute of Noetic Sciences, before that's no longer their headquarters. But they're actually renting it out to somebody else, another group, another fun kind of group kind of thing. Anyway, so there's this thing called HemiSync. These are audio techniques designed to stimulate brain functions until the left and right hemispheres become synchronized. So hemisphere synchronization, HemiSync. It's like I want John Reap to show up and be like, hey man, you got a Hemi in there? You remember those? John Reap's a stand-up comedian who got famous from those commercials. Monroe would tell you that the hemisync was good for it was good for you. It was good for your mental well-being. And not only that, it would facilitate altered states of consciousness. And I think we all can kind of jive on that, right? There's interesting. During a meditation today, I thought I was getting ready to go into an altered state of consciousness, and it was a sneeze that was coming on. Have you ever been like, oh my God, I'm getting ready to open up the floodgates and weep like I've never wept, and then, oh no, it's a sneeze that's making my face crumple. Anyway, like sometimes when I sneeze, I feel like, remember those things you put on your hand, the pieces of paper, and you're like, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, and you move up, and then you move sideways, and you move up and sideways, and then the answer's on the inside of them, or it's like your fingers are moving the paper. Anyway, sometimes I feel like that's what a sneeze is doing to my face. So, anyway, so altered states of consciousness, right? I think that's what all this is about. And and you know me, I'm all about consciousness being the key to everything supernatural, mystical, high strange, and paranormal, or being able to connect and get to the bottom of it. Consciousness is the key here. And altered states of consciousness are the goal with hemisync. Monroe's concept was based on an earlier hypothesis about binaural beats. I think you've probably heard binaural beats before. You've heard them and heard of them. It's also known as brainwave synchronization. We're talking about the hemisync here. Creating a frequency following response designed to evoke certain effects. Hemisync has been used for many purposes, including relaxation and sleep induction, learning and memory aids, helping those with physical and mental difficulties, and reaching altered states of consciousness through the use of sound. And I've done LED light treatment before. That is pretty intense. I'm a huge proponent of, you don't necessarily need DMT, acid, or psilocybin, or even ketamine to reach an altered state of consciousness. There are different ways to do it, whether it's through sound or through lights, through meditation. Some people are able to achieve it in such a way, through magic, through rituals, things like that. There's, one might even say that you could get there through yoga as well. Lots of ways. Running, you could get there on a runner's high. I would argue that a runner's high is an altered state of consciousness. I don't think you could really convince me otherwise. I've probably only experienced that a couple times in my life. One of them was hiker's high, and I think it's because I was soups dehydrates. Soups dehydrates? Yeah. Anyway, I'm probably a little dehydrated right now, so I'm probably going to have to, take a break here in a second. But when you're doing these meditations, when you're doing these things, specifically through the Expand app, headphones is a big thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big headphones guy, but I will ensure that I have them during these meditations, and they are important when it comes to entraining brain waves through sound waves. Because Monroe says that brains respond by producing a third sound called binaural beats that encourage various brainwave activity changes. Now, in 2002, at the University of Virginia, does that ring a bell? Are we familiar with? I think University of Virginia is in Charlottesville, where that tragedy was a few years back, where gosh, we don't need to get into it. So, University of Virginia presentation at the Society for Psychophysiological Research examined Monroe's claim. What was demonstrated was the EEG changes did not occur when the standard electromagnetic headphones of Monroe's setup were replaced by air conduction headphones, which were connected to a remote transducer by rubber tubes. This suggests that the basis for the entrainment effects is electromagnetic rather than acoustical. So maybe it's the headphones. Replicated double-blind randomized trials and anesthetized? How do you say that? Anesthetized. That's not, why did I forget that one? Anesthetized patients have found Hemisync effective as a partial replacement for fentanyl during surgery. A similar study found it ineffective at replacing propofol. Well, I don't know what propofol is. Anyway, it's a drug that I don't know, so that's probably a good thing. Let's take a quick break. Basically, what we're getting down to is Robert Monroe was at the forefront of using sound to try to achieve altered states of consciousness, to therefore induce out-of-body experiences. And through these out-of-body experiences, we can expand our consciousness. We can access the astral plane, and we can find ourselves in a deeper connection to the universe around us, the universe within us, and everyone and everything that also resides within and without. This is important, and I believe that the connective tissue between all things, all of us, all creatures, all matter, material or immaterial, is consciousness. That consciousness is the fiber that connects all of us. And if we do ourselves a favor and we start trying to tap into our consciousness in a more deep and profound way, we find something very interesting when we do that. We find, at least I find myself being overwhelmed with emotion, with feelings of love, forgiveness, connectedness, feelings that I need to do better, feelings that I can be and I should be and I will be making a better effort to be a beacon of light and love unconditionally for other people. And it's not easy all the time, right? Because sometimes we get too jacked up on shug. Sometimes we're too jacked up on calf. And other times we're just hungry. But hey, we can try to do our best, right? We're going to be right back. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer if you don't want ads. Okay, we've returned. And some of us never really went anywhere, did we? So just as a reminder, there's a couple new fresh videos. By the time you listen, it's already up there. I already put them up there. So some of you may have already received a notification if you're a patron that 2 new posts have popped up over there. So you can check those out. I'd love to hear your feedback on the orb or the video, the potential orb video. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and we can discuss. I got to tell you, I had a phone conversation with Ed Brown today. Ed and I were talking about something that was a main component of our interview last week. What he saw on the security camera. An orb turn into a ghost, full body apparition, and then turn back into an orb and then disappear. Ed seems to have a new theory. And we discussed his new theory today for a while on the phone this afternoon. And I got to tell you, it's pretty fascinating. I'd like to get him back on the show and discuss this, but I'll kind of give you a synopsis of what and where he's thinking. Ed is going through the phases of a profound paranormal experience. And even though we were on an expedition, a prolonged paranormal investigation, I would call what he saw an SPE, which is a spontaneous paranormal experience. Because it wasn't expected, he wasn't looking for it, it just happened. It was a spontaneous paranormal experience, and I feel like he's going through the steps. As someone who's had spontaneous paranormal experiences or seen something profound, you probably have as well at some point in your life, you understand the different stages and the steps that we go through when we experience something like that. At first, We can't believe it. We try to put words to it. It's difficult to wrap our brains around. We just have a feeling of elation. We have a feeling of excitement. Sometimes we have a feeling of fear, and which comes from an unknowingness. That then later transitions into deeper exploration of explanation. And wow, that was a lot of syllables there. Deeper exploration of explanation. We try to find other explanations for the thing we believe we saw. And then after that, we begin to question. We begin to question, did we see it correctly? What is wrong with us? Why must we tell people we have seen such a thing? Are we a fool? Are we stupid? Are we crazy? Etc. Then comes whoa, here's something I didn't consider. This actually could have been what I saw, not the thing I thought I saw when I thought I saw the thing I saw. That's where we're at right now. It's interesting because at this specific location on the property, we believe, as of that investigation, I mean, it was news to me. It was kind of a discovery while we were there. We believe there's a portal down by the Sugar Shack, which is at the bottom of the driveway, or towards the bottom of the driveway. I mean, it's not the bottom of the driveway. The driveway is much longer after you leave the house and past the Sugar Shack, but it, goes, anyway, that's not important. What's important is by this fence, by the Sugar Shack, we believe there's a portal. The Sugar Shack is known as one of the most active locations on that property, so it makes sense. Now, Ed tells me today that quite possibly he believes what he saw was not an orb turning into a full-body ghost and then turning back into an orb, but potentially a portal opening, something either emerging or entering the portal and then the portal closing. Is it possible that he witnessed the opening and closing of a portal? All I can say is I don't know. In addition to that, I will add, however, that you bet your sweet tush that the next time we're there, we're just going to spend 3 days hanging out by the Sugar Shack. Right? I mean, who wouldn't? That's right, exactly almost, where I had a thing scream at me in 2019. If you haven't heard that story, you can go back and listen to, just search the podcast, My Encounter with a Sasquatch is the name of that episode. I should write it down, what number it is. I can never remember. It's a third-year bonus. I think it might be like 72 or something, or 73. So it's from 2019 in, June, early June 2019. My encounter with a Sasquatch. So anyway, the creature that screamed at me or whatever it did, whatever vocalization it made at me in a terrifying, aggressive way, came right from that very same area, where also, myself included, at the beginning of that trip recently, we saw something kind of crawling around on the ground, very small, very low to the ground, and then it kind of just poofed and disappeared. Now, is that Ed thinks that might be the shadow or the feet of something that was cloaking that maybe and whatever. And he's like, I'm saying all this stuff and I sound like a crazy person. He's at that phase. He's, trying to figure it out. He's at that phase of like, I know I sound crazy now. I can't believe I'm saying this. Which to me is, that's where the peanut butter gets made, right? In that phase of a paranormal experience. This is where we either shut ourselves down, we close ourselves off, or we just embrace the weirdness and we roll with it and we say, you know what? Maybe it was somebody cloaking, right? Or something cloaking themselves. And we have reason to believe that that's like at the top of the list of, oh, hey, by the way, these things have been going on for a long time kind of thing when it comes to cloaking. So cloaking to me isn't wild, isn't a fantasy that is at the top of the, wow, you're never going to believe this. He said cloaking. That's yesterday's news, friend, with the cloaking thing. So, I don't know. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, before we went to break, I was kind of, dare I say, pontificating about the nature of consciousness and the expansion of such a thing. And what's interesting to me in the way it ties into paranormal research and paranormal investigation, in fact, is everything, specifically when it comes to investigation. We're trying to document, we're trying to observe, and that is often through, if not always. Now, this could be a fun debate to have. It's often, if not always, through interaction. Is it always interaction? Well, I would say yes, in some way. You could set up a camera somewhere and try to catch a ghost walking by. That's an interaction between the ghost and the digital equipment that you set with intention in a specific place. So, am I stretching the idea of what interaction is? I don't think so. I don't think you got to be Stretch Armstrong to make that work. So, interaction is one of the key things when it comes to investigation. Is interaction also a key when it comes to research? Because many people, they don't have the luxury or the great blessings to be able to go out and investigate all the time. They don't have, whether it's a financial thing or a time thing. They have children, they have other jobs, they have mortgages, they have things like that, right? And sometimes these locations are expensive, and if you get to be lucky, and I count myself as one of the luckiest people you'll probably ever meet, you get kind of brought into these things somehow, or you kind of just always end up kind of showing up or like being somehow ending up at a place. And now, granted, I've made a career out of, traveling and things like that, and also speaking my mind publicly about how I'm a weirdo. And so people are like, "Oh, you're a weirdo. You'll love this. So come here." So it's not all just blind luck, I suppose, but I'm very lucky. Make no mistake about that. And I do appreciate that, and I understand it, and I try my darndest not to take it for granted. Now, the research aspect of the paranormal and the supernatural and the mystical, the esoteric, specifically the esoteric, because it's so heavily research and reading and understanding based, is exciting and thrilling as well. I think about these books that I have to put into a duffel bag, and I think to myself, oh my God, think about how many answers to how many mysteries lie within this duffel bag that I'll be carrying, right? And who's to know? One of the books is Jadoo. I've got Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. I've also got the follow-up, the one that just came out not too long ago. I'm about to have the Robert Monroe trilogy here. I can't do it. I have to wait. So to purchase those, but there's probably about 12 other books as well. And I'm also lucky enough to be able to sometimes I'll get free copies of the books of guests who come on the show, like Jeff Tarrant's book, Becoming Psychic, and Rick Secker's book, things like that. I mean, it's just there's so many answers to life's mysteries inside this duffel bag that I just can't wait to. I just wish I could mash them into my skull and know them all. Now, the research aspect of the paranormal is just as important as the investigation. Oftentimes, you have no way of even understanding what you may have discovered unless there is someone there who has knowledge. Someone there who has learned, someone there who understands connections between seemingly unconnected things, which to me is my favorite part of stand-up comedy, how a punchline can be so far disconnected from the setup that it becomes such a surprise and therefore such a great laugh when the audience hears it. But I think there's a commonality there when it comes to the world of the paranormal. Some of these things are seemingly so disconnected. Like, for example, why would David Bowie's Space Oddity be so meaningful to two guys dancing around in the snow in Mount Shasta? Like, those things don't seem on a paranormal investigation, right? I mean, it might be a little easier to connect the dots on something like that, but And the reason I bring that one up is because I just happened to come across a little bit of the footage from Mount Shasta with Eric Connor and I, which is part of the Bridge documentary series that I'm still working on painstakingly. And Saturn and the number 6 came through a device, and it, and Saturn is the 6th planet from the sun. So, these are interesting connections. What do they mean? I'm not quite sure, and I'm not sure I'll ever fully understand, but who knows? Maybe we will. And there's just so much information and there's so much research to be done that it can seem daunting. And that's why I feel like I might just lock myself into a castle that has good Wi-Fi for the next 2 years, so I can really get these projects done in a way that I want to. But if you're researching the paranormal, you are interacting with the paranormal. That's the point of this. That's the point of what I'm saying. It's that old thing, like you look into it, it looks back. The paranormal is probably never more so than with the paranormal. Now, you are interacting with it. You are opening your mind to the possibility of paranormal things, or of the belief that goes with truly understanding certain paranormal phenomena. Much in the same way, parapsychological experiments have a better success rate or higher success rate when those conducting the experiments believe in the inevitable success of the experiment. Much in that way, when you are reading, researching, pondering the possibility, or being whimsical about the potentiality of certain paranormal phenomena, you've opened yourself up to it. And now you have created the option for that thing to interact with you. And that is not to say about like the bad things and demons, and et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm saying is your life becomes more interesting. And I mean, if you're listening to this, I would venture to say that you have quite an interesting life. Now, this isn't hierarchical. Who has a more interesting life than who else? I mean, is your life more interesting than mine? Probably. Is your life more interesting than someone who has never considered or looked into paranormal things as being actually real? Well, I hesitate to judge in such a harsh way. But I will say this. On an individual basis, you and I would probably have more fun sitting around chatting at a coffee shop than talking to someone who is a hardened skeptic and has no sense of humor or time to even discuss these kinds of things. It's one thing to not believe and to be skeptical. It's another thing to be like, don't waste my time talking to me about this stuff. If they consider it childish or amateurish or foolish. Any ish kind of thing. So, if you're researching the paranormal, you are in it. You are interacting. And I got to tell you, there are certain researchers who, I try not to be envious or jealous of people, but some people just seem to have so much knowledge, right? I don't know. A great example would be Jim Perry. I would call Jim Perry a top-notch researcher. He gets to the bottom of it, right? He also goes out in the field and does the thing, right? He doesn't call himself an investigator usually. Sometimes he does, because when I've had him on things, I'm like, you're an investigator. He's hesitant to call himself an investigator, but he is. He really is. But he's a top-notch researcher. That's for sure. To me, there's like, I'm kind of like straddling the fence. So I probably can't be that great at either one. because I'm doing both too much yet too little. Does that make sense? One might say that about my paranormal career and my stand-up comedy career lately. Like, where would my stand-up comedy career be if I never had a paranormal experience? Wow, I just don't even like to think about that, quite honestly, because it seems like, I can't even imagine. I honestly, when I try to imagine that, this has happened to me in like the last 24, 36, 48 hours. I've actually tried to think about this. And I honestly, it's blank. I have a pretty good imagination. Some people might say that I live inside of it on a regular basis. I cannot envision. It is blank. It's empty. Wow. It's empty when I try to imagine what my stand-up comedy would be like. Yowzers. Maybe I wouldn't be doing it anymore. Anyway, I love you. I hope you love yourself. Thanks for listening. I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.